Descending into the darkness, the Blackhearts made their way into what they hoped would be the mysterious Serpent's Den, a supposed hideout for the Kohaku clan. The steps were steep, cut from rough stone, leading to a wooden door reinforced with black iron. With weapons ready and senses sharpened, they pushed it open. The room they entered, however, was not the sprawling den of iniquity they had anticipated, but a surprisingly small and tranquil chamber, more akin to a hidden study or meditation room. Decorated in an ornate style reminiscent of the distant lands of Karatur, the room featured sliding paper walls, lacquered wooden shelves lined with scrolls and maps, and two neatly made futons set upon tatami mats in the corner. A low desk, carved from dark wood and inlaid with mother of pearl, stood near the back, bearing an ink set, quills, and parchment. An incense burner still glowed faintly, filling the air with a gentle, earthy aroma. A delicate plant sat in a small porcelain vase by the windowless wall, giving the whole space an unexpected sense of calm, a sharp contrast to the tension in the air. The Blackhearts wasted no time. Gideon, taking in a deep breath, caught the lingering scent of several different people, 4 or 5 at least, who had been in the room recently. The smell of sweat, a faint hint of jasmine oil, and the unmistakable musk of aged leather mixed together. Jacob carefully searched one of the futons and discovered a few strands of coarse grey-brown hair. His sharp mind quickly connected this to Renfield, who they were hoping to find. On the desk, several notes and charts were scattered, with some marked with red ink. They appeared to be related to Meghul's quest for Thal Noriath. Faraday, however, seemed strangely distracted, stared blankly at a wall, while mumbling to himself. He had pulled his serpent staff and a cloak from his bag, and was now wearing them both, muttering under his breath. When questioned, he gave vague responses, his eyes glassy and unfocused. While rifling through the desk drawers, Gideon found a small, locked box. Tossing it to Faraday, who picked it deftly, they revealed a mysterious set of items. A magical amulet, shimmering with a faint bluish light, and a small cloth bundle containing several ominous black petals. The sight of these peculiar petals made the room feel a little colder, an eerie silence settling over them. Meanwhile, upstairs, in the ruined shop, an inquisitive Meghul arrived. His sharp eyes swept over the room, his face remaining impassive, though he gave a nod of recognition to Horin. After a brief conversation with Mr. Shin in rapid Netherese, Meghul turned to Horin and asked for a rundown of events. As Horin provided a hasty explanation, a squad of city guards arrived, having been drawn by the disturbance. Meghul quickly diffused the situation, tossing a few coins to the guards to cover the damages to the shop, and sending them on their way. He then gestured for Horin to head down the ladder, downstairs before they could fully process what they had uncovered. The sound of commotion from above echoed down the stairs. The door opened with a heavy creak, and Meghul Winterwood stepped in, accompanied by Horin. His expression remained one of calm authority, his eyes fixed on the open box. "You will return my property," he said, holding out a hand expectantly. Reluctantly, they handed over the amulet and petals, and Meghul carefully placed them back in the box. He then inquired as to why they were there, and the Blackhearts in turn pressed him for information. He explained that he knew Renfield through his artifact hunting. Nobles were often involved in such matters. The Serpent's Den, he added, was merely one of several safe locations he maintained in Waterdeep. He professed ignorance of any doppelgangers. The Blackhearts exchanged glances. sensing that Meghul was not being deceptive but wondering if he was holding something back. Meghul, sensing their skepticism, said, "Well, seeing as you're already here, it might be wise to proceed to Thal Noriath. Time is not on our side." They waited as he grabbed a few healing potions from Mr. Shin, then revealed his plan. They would travel via teleportation circle. He knew the combination to an ancient, long-lost circle located at the gate of the ruined city. As they clasped wrists, Meghul began casting the teleportation spell. The air around them shimmered, and a strange pulling sensation took hold, as if the world itself were twisting and contorting around them. The room blurred and dissolved, the smell of incense replaced by the chill bite of mountain air. They arrived in a circle of standing stones, surrounded by jagged peaks. The sunlight was thin and cold, and the air was crisp and fresh, filling their lungs with an almost painful clarity. Snow capped the distant peaks, and ahead of them, a short distance away, stood a humongous stone doorway. The gateway to Thal Noriath was nearly 200 feet tall and shattered by the ages, with enormous stones crumbled around it. It was clearly the entrance to a city of grand scale, now lying in ruin. Some of the party felt queasy from the sudden teleportation, but they pressed on. The entrance itself was a vast tunnel, nearly 60 feet wide, extending deep into the mountain. Occasionally, shafts of light pierced through cracks above, illuminating the ancient stonework and the deep shadows it left behind. The road was lined with ruined carts and the skeletal remains of ancient travelers. More bones lay scattered across the path, some of dwarves, others less identifiable. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the distant drip of water and the scuffling of their own footsteps. After several hours of careful trekking down the main road, they passed through ruined guard checkpoints, their gates broken and discarded like rotting teeth. Eventually they arrived at a colossal chamber, a circular room nearly 500 feet in diameter, with alcoves and a balcony running along its perimeter. It was almost entirely shrouded in darkness, with only the occasional shaft of dim light seeping through from above. The room's scale suggested it was once a bustling market, with enough space for hundreds of stalls and carts. Now, it was a hollow echo of the past, with debris scattered across the ground and vast columns extending from the stone floors. Their footsteps echoed eerily as they crossed the vast chamber, each sound swallowed by the deep darkness. From a shadowed doorway ahead, a massive figure emerged, a ceramic golem, covered in moss and grime, its eyes glowing a dull blue. It blocked their path and boomed in a deep, resonant voice. "Khazad, Baruch Khazad, Baruch Nan-Ur, Baraz Khazad." Meghul and Horin, who both knew Dwarvish, translated, "Halt. You are not dwarf. You cannot pass." For the next half hour they tried various phrases in Dwarvish, hoping to appease the ancient guardian. But the golem remained as motionless and unyielding as the stone it was carved from. Faraday and Horin attempted to sneak around it but were met with a warning hand. Growing frustrated, Jacob began to cast a guidance spell, and immediately the golem's eyes flared with light, and it raised its massive arms in a defensive posture. Gideon suggested that Aurelian try, casting hypnotic pattern to distract it. Meghul stepped back, clearly wary, and as the magical pattern took form in the air, the golem roared to life, ethereal blue light extending down furrows in its form, and charged. What followed was a fierce and frantic battle. Gideon grabbed one of the golem's massive legs, trying to slow it down while Horin darted behind it, attempting to loop a rope around its legs to trip it. Jacob and Meghul unleashed spells to keep the creature at bay, blasting it with radiant light and magical energy. Faraday, with a sudden, dangerous glint in his eyes, unleashed an eldritch blast that shattered the stones above the golem, causing part of the ceiling to collapse onto it. Gideon and Horin barely dove out of the way in time as massive chunks of stone came crashing down. As the dust settled, Meghul suddenly felt a sharp pain in his side. He looked down to see a goblin grinning up at him, its dagger buried in his flesh. "They killed the Crusher," it shrieked in broken common, before darting off into the shadows. Gideon, with a growl, hurled Aurelian through the air like a javelin, skewering the goblin before it could get far. The blade sang with the thrill of the kill, and more goblin voices began chattering nervously in the darkness. Meghul and Jacob urged caution, wary of more hidden threats, while Faraday climbed over the rubble to check on Horin. The party regrouped, taking a moment to catch their breath. They found themselves in a wide, darkened corridor, completely devoid of light. Meghul muttered a few arcane words, and the Blackheart blade began to glow with a soft, white light. Further down, the corridor revealed a doorway, on the left, half hidden in the shadows. With caution, they made their way to it, and found an abandoned guard station inside. A long-dead dwarven guard slumped against the wall. His weapons were rusted beyond use, his armor covered in grime and dust. Horin carefully translated the runes carved above the doorframe. "Remember your helmet." He glanced down at the skeleton and, with a solemn nod, picked up the guard's battered helmet. Faraday rummaged through a desk drawer and found an old logbook. As Meghul read through it, they discovered that it contained mostly mundane entries, but one passage stood out. "Report serious incidents to Clan Firebeard." Horin's keen ears picked up the faint sound of muffled voices coming from further down the darkened corridor. Peering out cautiously, he spotted two figures moving in their direction from the depths of the Forgotten City. The Blackhearts exchanged tense looks, readying themselves for whatever was to come in the deep, dark labyrinth of Thal Noriath.